Hello, welcome back. This is A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. I'm quoting from the very start of this course. So what's required about it? Well, nothing and everything all at the same time, right? What I mean by this is that this course, A Course in Miracles, all of the books that comprise A Course in Miracles, including the text, the workbook for students, and the manual for teachers, where we find ourselves right now in this series of videos, are part of what Jesus says right here, actually, in the manual, is the universal course. So what is the universal course? It's spirituality in general. It's awakening. That you can call this realization of your higher self, realization of truth, realization of God, that you can call it enlightenment if you so choose, awakening if you so choose. But the acceptance of and realization of who we really are as a living, breathing experience, not merely as a theory, as a living, breathing experience, a knowing, not merely a theory. What is required is the universal course. How you get there, well, there are many doors. That explains the wide variety of religious and spiritual traditions available in the world. That explains that. They're all approaches, they're all doors, and what differs are the outward approaches. And look at the traditional world religions, the major world religions, they've grown up very differently based on when they began, based on the cultures that they began in. That is simply just one example. Many doors. So the outward form differs, but that's all that differs. The content is the same. Everything we're talking about here in these videos is the universal content as it is presented in A Course in Miracles, which of course is not the only way. A self-study curriculum by design, a self-study curriculum could never, nor would it ever want to claim that it is the only way. There are many ways. This may be for you. And the fact that you're paying attention to this video indicates that either it is one of your chosen approaches, or maybe the chosen approach for you, or you're interested in it. So welcome, however you come to find me talking here today. We're in the manual for teachers. Question 10. How is judgment relinquished? How's that for a beautiful, powerful question? How is judgment relinquished? Well, let's just understand the premise that here in this world, we don't like to think of us as a judgmental group. We're all judgmental, aren't we? We pass judgment all the time. We're conditioned, trained, and indoctrinated to pass judgment all the time. And the more we pass it, the better some people think we really are. The more society encourages us to judge. What do I mean by that? Let's start right here in the commentary. Because the answer, how is judgment relinquished? It simply is relinquished by a decision that you make to set it aside. That is the answer. Now, here in the world, we can't just leave it at that. I mean, we could, but that may not make any sense practically to you. So it's important to understand how we have arrived in this place. Where do we go from here? We set it aside. We set the judgment aside. It's a decision right here in the present moment that you make. That's the answer. So, what we have here in the world is a situation where that simple answer doesn't even occur to us because of the conditioning that we've all received. It would never occur to us, for the most part, if we were even to pause and ask this question: how is judgment relinquished? Which, of course, most people clearly aren't doing. If they were, we would live in a vastly different world, wouldn't we? But even if someone pauses to think about it, the real simple solution tends to not jump right out, does it? Because we're conditioned to think that judgment is wisdom. We're conditioned to think that making choices of ourself, little s, by our individual selves is wisdom. It's considered wise and worthy. A Course in Miracles says otherwise. In fact, this course involves a 180-degree reversal of the world's thought system. This is what the course involves, is a complete 180 and how you approach yourself, how you approach others, how you approach the world, and indeed all phenomena, everything. It's a completely different take. So no wonder that there aren't millions and millions and millions and billions of people jumping on this right now. Because of this conditioning, we think of judgment as worthy. We think of it as wise. We think of it as good. And we think being self sufficient and able to make decisions as an individual self is a value to be upheld and cultivated. So the Course says otherwise. And here in these pages, Jesus gives us a very, very powerful explanation. Do you, in passing any form of judgment at all, do you know for sure, 100% certain, that the decision, the choice that you are going to make will benefit not only the people concerned, yourself and everyone else in your immediate circle that's concerned with your judgment, but every single living thing that has ever lived, that is currently alive or that will live? Does your judgment guarantee the best, most loving outcome for all time? Can you 100% guarantee that? And when you answer, well, no, then exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly the answer. Of course you can't, because we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in 15 minutes, do we? We really don't. One of my one of my teachers from an earlier phase in this lifetime, Lama Michael Conklin, a Buddhist Lama, made me really laugh one day. We were having a conversation over a buffet spread, and he said, he was examining the desserts. Oh, yeah. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to be alive for another 15 minutes. I better just have one more slice of chocolate pie. And it's funny. And it's actually true. Doesn't mean go out and eat another slice of pie, but it means that we're not sure what's going to happen 15 seconds from now, much less 15 minutes or 15 years. So, how can we presume to be so high and mighty and wise that our own individual judgment as a human being with all of our limitations is going to have a 100% maximal positive impact for everything that lives for all time? When put this way, we realize that in constantly putting a high value on judgment, we're really burdening ourselves. How many times have you made what you thought was the right call in a situation, only to discover, sometimes almost immediately, that that was absolutely not the right call? I mean, if we were doing a show of hands, if people were honest, every single hand in the room would have to go up, mine included, of course, right? This is what happens. This is what happens to all of us, me too, by the way. I am just a student of this course presenting my own experience, like Lama Michael Conklin and the chocolate pie, and just the course as it is. And what Jesus is saying is that we can't presume to know everything. So why would we place the burden of that on ourselves? This course emphasizes very strongly and in many different places the giving up our judgment, letting it go, and giving it over to our inner teacher. In this case, it's the Holy Spirit, which, by the way, is your higher self, capital S. Here in the course, the Holy Spirit's known as a vast array of things, different names. The voice for God may be the most common, but it's also it, not he. It uses the pronoun he, him, right? But it's it, yeah. It's known as the universal inspiration, right? The friend, capital F, among other things. So the Holy Spirit is your inner teacher. Now, you may not follow A Course in Miracles as your primary focus of spirituality, which is absolutely okay. It's absolutely okay because remember, the universal course is just that. It's universal. So what I invite you to do in that case is ask your guide, or if you have more than one, ask your guides, right? Ask your wisdom counsel, if that is what you choose to call it. Doesn't really make any difference what you call it, right? Ask your inner teacher. That's what is meant by ask your inner teacher to take the reins. People in the world say, Jesus, take the wheel. Yeah, yeah, because all we do is crash the damn car. When you think about it, there's no way that any single one of us could ever presume to know what is absolutely best for every living thing at all times through all time. But our inner teacher does know. So as we learn, progressively, if need be, of course, it's a process, yes. As we learn to relinquish our judgment, what happens? Well, Jesus talks about it. It's a sense of relief. Now, I want you to take this from your own experience. This is what we want you to do. Every spiritual teacher that really, really knows what they're doing, right? And I'm really actually not doing anything. Now, this is a message that's coming through me. This is important because as we let go of our own judgment, we feel inevitably a sense of relief. Why? We don't have to have it all figured out. How much burden do you put on yourself to know it all? Yes, to have all of the answers, to figure it all out and have all of the answers at all times. Rugged individualism on a platter. How's that working out for you? Not well? There's a solution. Let your judgment go. This is one of the most effective prayers, by the way, that you could ever say. Let your judgment go. May I, get some help here. Help me set all of my judgment aside. Ask your inner teacher for this help. Ask God, ask Jesus, ask Buddha, ask your inner teacher, ask your guide or guides for help in setting all of your judgment aside. What happens? You are lighter. You are freed of a massive burden, and judgment takes place through you, not by you, through you. And the judgment of the Holy Spirit is God's Son, you, me, all of us. God's Son is guiltless, and there is no sin. That is the judgment of the Holy Spirit. If you were on trial, this would be the judgment absolutely dismissing the case against you. Court adjourned. This course makes very clear that there is no sin. How could there be when you really allow yourself to think about it? God being love, I think most of us agree that God is love. I mean, if you don't think that, you don't think that. I don't mind. I'm already succeeding by making you think about it. Think about that. Just showing up and teaching is what we're here to do. You can take this message and run with it, or you can take this message and figuratively throw it in the garbage. It's not up to me. I'm not looking for agreement. The judgment of the Holy Spirit is God's Son is guiltless and there is no sin. Let this judgment pour through you. This is what happens when we choose to set it aside. And this is, of course, a long-ish way of saying, but yes, judgment is relinquished by a very simple moment-to-moment choice. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, that's not as easy as you make it sound. Of course it's not. Simple and easy are really not the same thing, are they? I mean, if recognizing the truth of a thought system that's diametrically opposed to everything we've been taught here in the world, if recognizing that truth were easy, you wouldn't need me to talk to you. We'd all be completely enlightened already. If it were easy, why is it not easy? Well, we're ingrained to believe otherwise. So for almost all of us, the vast majority, we have a gradual process to go through. That's okay. So when you notice yourself getting off track, what I like to tell people is that's okay, because if you don't know something, you don't know it, right? You don't know what you don't know. There are teachers here in the world and courses like A Course in Miracles, aspects of the universal course to help grow an awareness. People like me to say there is no sin. I don't care what you've been told. You don't have to agree with me. I mean, I had it shoved down my throat that I was a miserable sinner deserving of hellfire, brimstone, whatever that actually is, punishment and death, to sit in a boiling lake and watch my flesh bubble forever and ever. I mean, they tried to scare the shit out of me as a kid with all that nonsense. I mean, I know what that's like. I never bought it, but there will be teachers here to help raise an awareness. If you don't know that you're in your own way, how can you possibly be expected to do anything about it? If you're not aware, how can you solve a problem if you're not aware of it? What goes on here in the world is this conditioning so thick that it just becomes automatic. There's really very little we can do about this because it starts when we're freaking born. It starts at a young age. So, step number one is becoming aware that you're not happy and that this voice inside you that says there's got to be a better way deserves your ear, deserves your ear, deserves your attention, deserves your understanding, and most importantly, it deserves your practice, your moment to moment implementation and application of these ideas. This is where the essence and the meat of spirituality is. We can't solve problems with the same mindset that created them. So once you become aware that there's got to be an easier way, and you have become aware of that, whether you're denying that or not doesn't make any difference. You've become aware of it. You're watching this. You're interested in spirituality. So many people aren't, obviously. Right? Look around us, but you are, and a growing number of people are. So we cannot solve the quandary that we appear to be in with the same mindset that created it. We're simply recycling the problem, taking a different outward approach when the problem is not there. That's not where the solution is. It's in here, it's internal, it's an inside job. All of it. What we appear to see outside us is a direct symbol, it's a reflection of what's going on in our mind. When we see and experience something painful, it's an opportunity for forgiveness. When we see something beautiful, it's also symbolic. It's symbolic of our own beauty as the Son of God. It's symbolic of our love, our joy, our limitlessness. A beautiful sunset is one example. Because we see an alternation in the world, don't we, of beautiful, ugly, joyful, painful. How do we break the cycle that seems to go on and on? When Buddhists call the cycle of death and rebirth this chain of suffering, samsara, which means wheel, by the way, in Sanskrit, that's accurate, isn't it? It's a very good descriptive term because it is like a hamster wheel that we deep down know that we could choose to step off, but we don't let ourselves. So, my closing invitation to you is to let yourself step off the wheel, let yourself relinquish judgment by your own simple and very powerful choice to do so. Need help? Ask. Thanks, guys.